This was the war to end all wars. When the war started, people were happy and cheerfully sending off their men to front lines. They will be back by Christmas in just a few weeks, many thought.
This initial illusion and excitement didn't last, and soon the governments had to use propaganda and censor the press in order to control dissent.
German gamble for a quick win in France failed, and the two countries stuck into a stalemate on the Western Front. The front line moved inches. The attacks were unsuccessful, and in order to advance, countries introduced new weapons, like improved machine guns, heavy artillery, poison gases, zeppelins, and tanks. Since there was no advance, more and more resources were dragged into the war, and it became a war of attrition, wearing down the enemy and draining countries' resources. As a result, it became a total war that required the complete mobilization of all resources and all of the people.
So people were no longer happy about the war?
No. And in order to continue fighting, governments introduced planned economies that they controlled and rationed most of the important resources. Since many men left to the front lines, women were required to occupy their positions in factories and at home.
But once the war was over and men returned to the labor force, governments quickly fired many women.
Germany's used submarines, or U-boats, as part of their unrestricted submarine warfare in order to disrupt maritime navigation. One of the boats that they sunk was the passenger ship Lusitania, with 128 Americans on board. That turned the opinion of the US against Germany, and 2 years later, the country will join the war on the side of the Allies.
Unlike Western Front, Eastern was characterized by mobility. After initial wins of the Russians against Austria-Hungary, Germans moved in their troops and Russia started losing battle after battle and retreating. To help Russians, the Allies tried to bring supplies of weapons and resources through the Mediterranean, which was controlled by the Ottoman Empire. They landed at Gallipoli near Constantinople, but the campaign failed and they used British diplomat Lawrence of Arabia to instigate Arab princes to rebel against the Ottomans.
The situation in Russia had worsened, and soon the government of the Tsar was facing a revolution that eventually led to its withdrawal from the war.
With Russia being eliminated, Erich Ludendorff launched a final offensive, which was unsuccessful and led to German defeat in the war. Kaiser stepped down and the German government signed the armistice.